Usually the first step in preparing for a DHA is assembling the DHA team. This starts with determining who is going to be the lead. You also want to make sure you have people that are knowledgeable of the process and knowledgeable of the equipment. So this might be engineers, operators, and maintenance personnel, because those are the ones most familiar with the process, and most familiar with the equipment, and most familiar with the design. The next step is to identify and evaluate the various types of dust you have on site. So this starts by looking at all the solid particulate materials handled on site. You come up with a list of the dust, and then you see what data to have on that dust. So you can look at safety data sheets, you can look at prior testing, you can look at online databases, or NFPA standards might have data on specific dust. And oftentimes you might need to conduct additional testing to get the data that you need. Having the right data for your dust is critical, because it can determine where fire hazards exist, where explosion hazards exist. It can tell you how severe an explosion might be, and it also can tell you how sensitive a material is to ignition. The next step in preparing for DHA is to gather all relevant process documentation. So this will be process flow diagrams, this will be facility layout diagrams, this will include equipment sheets from the original equipment manufacturers, also explosion protection documentation. So if you have existing explosion protection equipment, you'll want to see the design documentation for that. It's important to have all of this information so that you can really understand how the equipment moves solid particles through it, because this is going to help you see where there might be ignition sources. This will tell you where inside the equipment there might be an ignitable dust cloud. And also, this documentation typically is included with the DHA. So I like to look at the DHA as a single place where you have all the critical information needed to understand fire and explosion hazards in your process. And once you've identified the documents to use during the DHA, you want to make sure you keep those at hand, because you'll want to file those with the DHA. You'll want to have the process flow diagrams. That way, when you're looking at it in the future, you can make sure that the current equipment matches what the DHA evaluated. By taking these steps to prepare for a DHA, it'll help it go more efficiently. Sometimes DHAs can take several days on site, so having the documentation prepared for the DHA will help you make sure that you can conduct the DHA efficiently, and it'll help ensure the quality of the results.